And welcome to TEP Center. My job is really easy. First of all, I don't have a speech. I don't really like speeches. I think my job is really just to welcome us to today's event and let Lisa and her team run the show. We're excited because it's the first NICE event this year. NICE is a growing community of people who are interested in innovation in the education space and also who are interested in what happens to the outputs of our education sector, who are obviously the graduates, whether from primary, secondary, or from tertiary institutions. We're keen to see what is working in the sector, and we're also very keen to see how can we scale what is working in the sector. For us, I think for the entire network, it's important that we address issues from a sector-wide perspective, looking at ecosystems, and I think that's one of the main characteristics of today's event, is having that ecosystem where you have different actors from different sectors, not just the private sector and not just the government sector. We have different representations from, like I said, different sectors. And that way we are able to come to a more balanced view, of our discussions and our outcomes. So again, it's really just to say you're welcome. Thank you for making the time to be here. And thank you most especially to our colleagues from WAVE, for conceptualizing, this particular event in terms of the agenda, the thinking, and what should come out of this. So thank you very much, Misan. Thank you very much, Doctor. We appreciate the time, and we hope you will have a wonderful, wonderful day here today. Thank you.
Such as it were. So I introduced myself earlier. My name is UT. I know at this point we're ready to get into the conversations about rewiring the education system, education to work. But I just wanted to quickly talk about NICE and set the context as to why you have NICE on the slide in front of you, and what the connections are. So really, the National Innovation Collaborative for Education, NICE, is a membership platform that was established in 2016. And it really was established as an outcome of an annual conference that we organize every year as TEP Center, the Nigerian Education Innovation Summit. And what NEDIS was set up to do was really to gather education stakeholders together to discuss education innovation and how we can scale education innovation to improve quality and access and quality of education in Nigeria. And in 2016, participants said, it's not enough to come together for a talk shop every year. That it's good that we attend NEDIS annually, but we can't just attend NEDIS once a year and then go back to doing our respective job. We need to figure out how to collaborate better, how to connect continuously and take forward the conversations that happen at NEDIS. And really that's how NICE was born. So the meeting we are having today is the first in a series of quarterly meetings that we hope to host. And, we're very excited that WAVE decided to jump on this platform with us and host this conversation on the platform of NICE. The truth is they could have done it, anywhere else or done it independently. But why this is important is because it allows us to carry this conversation beyond our individual organizations. And what NICE is committing to do is to spread as much as possible, the conversations that we have here and continue to invite new actors or new members to the network. So I think if you check the packs in front of you, you also have a membership form that you can complete if you're interested in joining. And we can have a further conversation about what NICE is set up to do and how we can work together to improve, to deal with all these challenges that we've discussed already. So thank you once again for coming. You're welcome. At this point, I think we introduce Misa or Ms. Doherty to start the conversations for the day.
So, like Ruth mentioned, I'm working with WAVE on the research, enhancing TVET system through innovative pedagogy, integration at secondary vocational level of education in Nigeria. Teaching and learning in TVET ought to be applied with the best teaching methods for effective results. But we found that teaching and learning method is not done with passion and creativity innovation in TVET. Now, it us to pedagogy. What is pedagogy? Pedagogy is defined as a combination of skills and knowledge needed for effective teaching. Now, good instructional method that is being used by a teacher can make a difficult subject easy to learn. I'm sure you agree with me. So it depends on the teacher. It depends on the way the teacher communicates to the student. That is why we are focusing on teaching methods. We want to know how teachers, what are the teaching methods that they are using in their classroom. Now, presently, work demands are changing. And in view of Kawasaki 2015, the changing work demand must also be reflected in how future generations are educated. And to achieve this demand, teachers need to adopt innovative teaching and learning strategies. And what do we mean by innovation? Innovation is doing something in a new way, doing something differently, creatively. So we need our teachers to be creative in their teaching methods, in their teaching strategies, doing something different that will make the student actively engage in learning. I have here this figure showing the guiding principles for learning in the 21st century. And what we found out from the research is that most of the teachers are still teaching using the 20th century, 19th century teaching methods and not focusing on the guiding principles. For example, I'll take academic honesty. Teachers need to encourage their students to be original. This is a very particular, this is a problem that we encounter because I'm a lecturer, I'm a teacher, and when you give students assignments and projects, you just go on the internet and copy and paste and come and give it back to you. And when you tell them you have to be original, you have to paraphrase, you go through different resources, think about it and come up with your own original idea, it becomes a problem for them. And I'm not surprised because the background has been faulty. You know, these students are already in tertiary institutions, but if the background is faulty, the secondary level education, the primary level education has not captured some of these principles, then it becomes a problem at the tertiary level. So at that point, you know, it's like starting all over again to teach the students. And sometimes I tell them I have to leave my job of lecturing and start mentoring you on some of these little things. So we discovered from the research that these 21st century principles is not being used by teachers. Now, innovative pedagogy implies the application of existing teaching and learning methods in a creative but value-increasing ways. The teacher has the responsibility to make sure that the students that he or she is teaching gain something and value is added to the student. It's not just the knowledge. Knowledge, skills, and attitude, the three aspects. Now, if you really want to improve the quality of TVET, then we need to understand the teaching and learning methods that make it work best, because TVET is a special kind of education. TVET is a special kind of education, and we need to understand the teaching methods that make it work best, and that was the focus of the research. Comparison between the teacher and the facilitator. From the research also, we discovered that, okay, most of the teachers are in this category, and they need to change roles to being facilitators. A teacher is in control always, is at the center of it, but a facilitator gives the students the opportunity to learn. The students are, or the learners rather, because the 21st century learner is different from a student. A student may not necessarily be learning anything. But if you have the 21st century learner, the responsibility of the facilitator is to make sure that the students are actually learning and value is being added. So the learner takes responsibility of his or her learning. And that's another problem. You give students, go and read this, give them a topic. They are lazy about it. But they do it reluctantly and come up with all sorts. I said, okay, tell me what you have learned. And I asked them, if I had given you the answer right in class, you will not remember again. And they'll say yes, that it's better for them to do the research themselves, and it helps them to remember and to understand what they have learned. So I have here, this figure is showing the difference between a teacher and a facilitator. We are coming up with a step-by-step guide on how teachers can implement innovative pedagogy. And these are some of the things that is in the guide. We are going to tell teachers how they can move from being a teacher to a facilitator that will guide the process and provide the right answer, helping the students to discover by themselves the answers to the problems. I also have here comparison between the students and the 21st century. Most of our students are in that category, focusing on memorization. They want to write exams. They want to pass. They want to follow instruction from teacher. And most of the students, they tell you they don't even want the knowledge. And when I tell them, you need this knowledge when you go out there in labor market, they don't want. All they want is to pass the exam. If they pass the exam, that is all that matters to them. But the 21st century learner focuses on understanding, application, how he or she will apply the knowledge that he or she has learned, controls all learning process, independent. He or she is an independent learner. So the step-by-step guide will have the step-by-step guide has the procedures of how teachers can change roles from being a teacher to a facilitator. This is showing characteristics of a 21st century educator. This is an adapter, a communicator, a learner, visionary, model, a collaborator. Because with TVET, teachers and schools need to collaborate with the industry. That is the key thing for TVET. And if a teacher does not have some of these characteristics, collaboration will definitely find it difficult to achieve. Then, characteristics of 21st century learning environment. The environment has to be learner-centered. We are all talking about learner-centered teaching approach, active learning, flexible learning. I talked about collaboration, that these are some of the my expectations. In Yaba College of Technology, for example, we collaborated with the Commonwealth of Learning, an organization in Canada. And through that, a lot of our teachers, we've gone through training, a lot of our teachers now do flexible teaching and learning. Without that collaboration, we will not have known what flexible teaching and learning is. How do we use technology for teaching? How do we use digital technology for teaching and learning for the students? Now, statement of the problem: demand for learner-centered approach in TVET, but our TVET system in Nigeria is still being delivered through the traditional method, discussion, lecturing method. And our teachers need to utilize flexible and innovative instructional delivery approaches. So in view of this, the study was carried out to determine flexible ways of enhancing instructional delivery of TVET programs through innovative pedagogy integration. And the objective of the study, we tried to explore how students learn in TVET at the secondary level. We designed innovative pedagogy approach. We determined the skill needs. What is the skill needs of the teachers? And then
We also explored the effects of the innovative pedagogy integration on students' academic achievements. Methodology, our focus was on TVET, and then the study was carried out in 3 states: Lagos, Rivers State, Port Harcourt, and Enugu. Population were teachers and students from the TVET institutions. And the need assessment study was carried out, where we wanted to find out what are the teaching methods that the teachers are using in teaching in TVET secondary schools. So we also conducted a capacity building, like an induction for the teachers, to train them and to let them know about innovative pedagogy and why they need to integrate innovative pedagogy in their teaching and learning. And then, following the capacity building workshop, we conducted the quasi-experimental study, where the designed innovative pedagogy was actually used to teach the students. We wanted to see the main performance of the students after using the innovative pedagogy. Then we used just 3 subjects because we could not use all the TVET subjects in the curriculum. From the needs assessment, we were able to find out that these 3 subjects were mostly offered by the schools, because catering practice is easy even without facilities, basic facilities. Some schools can still do catering practical, computer. So that was why we chose the 3 subjects. Then, innovative approach that we came up with were the facilitated peer teaching method, industry-based teaching method, and then the conventional method. We wanted to see the difference between the innovative pedagogy and the conventional discussion and demonstration that the teachers use. So from the need assessment result, this is actually the results for Lagos, but it cuts across the state. We discovered that the first teaching method used by the teachers, demonstration, discussion. Demonstration is supposed to be used with some facilities. Demonstration is supposed to be used with some facilities, but those basic facilities are even missing. Because a teacher is supposed to demonstrate maybe with video, with pictures, with flip charts, but these are not available. So even the demonstration is not properly done, is not properly utilized by the teachers. And then discussion. So demonstration and discussion, because it's easy for a teacher to use, it's the traditional teaching method. It's easy for a teacher to use the demonstration and discussion method. Now, innovative pedagogy is the best mix of teaching methods that can be taken together. From the study, we discovered that teachers are stereotyped towards just one method. And the guide that we're going to come up with will guide teachers to be able to use a mix of different methods to achieve his or her purpose, and to actively engage the students. So the innovative pedagogy in the study focused on a combination of facilitated peer tutoring method with the conventional demonstration and discussion that the teachers are quite familiar with. And then we also, from the capacity building workshop, we taught them how to use the industry-based with the demonstration method or the discussion method. The designed innovative pedagogy can help teachers facilitate more effectively meeting the needs of their learners, can even be used in the absence of technology. Because from the research, we found out that Lagos is like a pace setter. In other states, Enugu, Port Harcourt is even worse from our findings in the TVET schools. So Lagos has even they have gone a step higher when it comes to facilities and then technology. So these methods that we have come up with can even be used in the absence of technology. We are all talking about digital age, but there are some schools in villages, in rural settings, in Enugu, in Port Harcourt, who don't even have access to technology. And if they don't have access to technology, what kind of methods can the teacher use that will engage their learners actively? And then the design innovative pedagogy also directly impacts on the quality of learning outcome, and it can be used on a day-to-day level by the teachers. Facilitated peer tutoring is a known method, but is not used in TVET at the secondary level. But we are proposing this because peer tutoring, the facilitated peer tutoring, will encourage collaboration, creative thinking among the students. So the teacher is supposed to give the students the theoretical knowledge, and then in addition will also use this method. So it's used in combination with discussion and demonstration method, encourages active engagement. And the innovation here is that the teachers is actively involved. Because when you talk about peer tutoring, it's the students that just come together, the teacher is not involved. But here, the teacher is involved in the peer tutoring method, does the selection of whoever is going to be the tutor, and then guides the tutor on what to do. And moreover, the teacher already has an objective. The teacher would have come up with an objective that at the end of this session or this topic or this lesson, this is the learning outcome that I want achieved. So from the step-by-step guide we're coming up with, for a teacher to be able to implement facilitated peer tutoring method, the teacher must be able to clarify specific objectives of the tutoring program, list objectives in a form that can be easily measured. So from the guide, how a teacher is going to come up with objectives for his or her lesson will be stated in the guide. Then choosing tutoring partners, high achieving tutors, how the teacher will select the high achieving tutors without bias, establish rules and procedures for the tutoring program, implement the tutoring program. The teacher has to monitor it, whether it will really achieve the objective, and then the teacher can evaluate the program and modify after evaluation. So this is showing the prior guidance according to Mastro-Perry and Shrugs, 2007, considered as a helpful tip in utilizing facilitated peer tutoring for teachers. So the teacher is supposed to define and develop procedures for social skills, define and develop procedures for moving into peer tutoring, and then explaining and modeling peer tutoring, allow the students to practice prior to the first peer tutoring session. Then teach students how to carefully monitor their own and their partners' progress, because it's not just doing it because the teacher wants to do it. It has to meet the objectives. And then here, this is just the relationship between the facilitated peer tutoring and the peer tutoring that this is the normal peer tutoring, the traditional peer tutoring that everyone is familiar with is between the tutor and the tutee. And then the facilitated peer tutoring, the teacher is involved in guiding the tutor on what is expected of him or her. And then you have the conventional classroom. This is prior guidance between prior guidance given to the tutor by the teacher. Another innovative pedagogy that we came up with was the industry-based approach. We all know CWES. All schools do CWES, TVET schools do CWES, industrial attachments, but it has not been successful because of some challenges due to funding, and then companies are not willing to accept students for these attachments, because sometimes the attachment runs for 3 months or even more. So because of funding, most companies are reluctant in accepting students. So we came up with this industry-based approach that even though the CWES and the industrial attachment has not been successful, teachers can still use this during their lesson period to be able to engage the students. So for the industry-based approach, what we came up with, you have the teacher usually, they do their lesson plan, and they are also to identify an industry. For example, if they are to, for example, if a teacher is to treat a topic on pastry, the teacher will, and there's no facility within the school. So the teacher is supposed to identify an industry within that, relevant to that lesson content, and then take the students to the industry. The teacher would have given the students the theoretical aspect of that topic in the classroom, and then take the student to the industry, particularly just for that topic. So it can be a day in a week. So the student is learning in a dual setting. And then it depends on the teacher to choose the particular topic, because we envisage that this may be a challenge because it may disrupt the academic calendar. So not all topics can be used, but the very difficult ones that the teacher assumes that the teacher needs the practical skills will use this industry-based approach. This is a checklist design. It's also in the in the guide that is being developed. This is the steps to be followed in implementing innovative teaching methods. Now, from the research, the teachers told us that some of the challenges that they have in the use of innovative pedagogy, lack of regular attendance to workshops. So if the teachers themselves don't know what innovative pedagogy is, how will they use it? So it's a challenge, and it's not just going for workshop that will meet their needs. And then we have poor culture, poor maintenance culture. Some of the teachers mentioned that this is a problem. Lack of well-equipped laboratories. So even if you don't have a well-equipped laboratory, the teacher can still use the industry-based approach that we came up with to for his or her students. Then in the research, we also carried out a questionnaire survey to find out the effectiveness of innovative pedagogy approach, and these are the responses we got from the teachers. Competency in instrument, operational skills for work, performance, competency in practical tests. So from the quasi-experimental study that we came up with the facilitated peer, after training the teachers on what facilitated peer tutoring is, an industry-based approach, and how they are going to use it, and we developed a lesson plan together with the teachers. And this, from the quasi-experimental, this is the findings that we got. From this, you can see that the performance, the facilitated peer tutoring and industry-based approach had a positive influence on student performance. The white bar and the brown, you have facilitated and industry-based. The students that we use this particular method for had very high mean performance. So, conclusion. The purpose of using the innovative approach was to find better ways of keeping the technical college learners actively engaged in teaching and learning, and to motivate them. So these are some of the policy recommendations that we came up with. The teachers need to be trained and retrained over and over again, and some of these organizations or educational institutions need to collaborate with private organizations like NICE, WAVE, for this kind of training. There's need to intensify advocacy efforts by stakeholders for TVET teachers to embrace innovative pedagogy. Again, if you're asking them to embrace innovative pedagogy, you have to train them on what innovative pedagogy is. So thank you. These pictures of some of the schools that we used for the research.
for those who are not in the room, I have gotten tired of admiring the problem. That problem is fine. That problem is so beautiful. That problem is so strong. That problem of the education-to-employment system, we can talk about it for years and still be talking about this beautiful problem. And I'm ready to start admiring the solution. And so I want the rest of today to be about solutions. So to your point, what's the way forward? That's what we're hoping to get out of the room. Another principle is that I believe that 90% of the time when we ask a question, we actually know the answer to it. God has given us a generator in our heads, and we actually know the answers and the solutions in this room. And so it's going to be about getting it out for all of us. So what is appreciative inquiry? You will hear some people say in life, the answers you get come from the questions that you ask. It sounds very common sense, right? If I am looking for hair in my food, I always find hair in my food. So you've just learned to ask questions to facilitate the answers that you want. And so appreciative inquiry, what's the aim of it? It is to help us desire, envision a collective future. Where do we want to go? We know where we've come from, we know what we could be. Where do we want to go? It's to carry forth a vision in ways that will translate intention into reality and beliefs into practices. What does it mean? Jargon, right? What are our intentions for the system? What do we want the system to do? What do we know that it is capable of doing? All of us in this room have somehow transcended the system or have somehow been fortunate in a lottery to have been blessed with the right person in that system who took care of our learning and helped us discover ourselves. So it was either luck or it was us, but somehow we are in this room, and as a result, it means that we have actually transcended what the system had to offer. And so how do we translate the intention into reality? Because we know the system can do it. How do we unleash the positive energy within all of us to get this done? So the point I tried to make earlier, we live in a world that our questions create. Human systems move in the direction they ask about. What questions we are asking about is where we're moving to. You hear everybody talking about the future of work. We're moving there because those are the questions we're asking. Now, those of us in this part of the world probably are still trying to figure out the current of work, so we're not even getting to the future because we can't even ask those questions. Organizations move, systems move in the direction of what they study. Where we invest our time admiring this problem, that's the direction we will continue moving in that problem. The questions we ask determine what we find. What is the evidence for this? That we move in the direction of the questions we ask, we move in the directions of the spaces where we focus our energy. How many of you have heard of something called the Pygmalion effect? Okay, there's a film called My Fair Lady, and there are many films that have been made about that concept. The Pygmalion effect is when someone starts to believe that you can do something, and they infect you with that belief that you can do it, somehow you just start to do it. Have you ever had that person who believed in you, that boss, that manager, that teacher, that parent, who believed you could do something that initially you thought you couldn't do? And just by the mere act, it's weird, I don't know what it is. By that mere act, you start to do it. That is the Pygmalion effect. That is evidence that we move in the direction of the things that we study and the questions that we ask. The placebo effect. How many of you know what that is? I give you medication and I tell you this is medication that will help your knee get better. And in that medication is just water. And somehow I ask you the next day, how are you feeling? And you are feeling better. A lot of our religious leaders are built on placebo effect. Sports, they talk about the art of visualizing when you cross the finish line. Michael Phelps is known to visualize how he's going to go in the pool, how he's going to do his strokes, and how he will finish that race. And that art of visualizing it, they call it performance psychology. I just listened to a TED Talk the other day all about performance psychology and how believing it moves you in that direction. Sociology, the study of problems, creates an increase in the number and severity of problems. But the opposite is also true. So when in sociology you are studying problems, oh, look at this problem in society, blah, blah, you discover more problems. But when you start to study solutions, you discover solutions. Internal conversations that we have with ourselves. So people have studied pre-surgery, before an operation, and after an operation. The kinds of conversations you have with yourself. Oh, what will happen if I start to bleed out when I go home tomorrow? What should I do? You kind of end up moving yourself in that direction, as opposed to, oh, how should I take care of the wound? How do I help my baby do this, etc.? You start to move in that direction. So this is just some elements of the evidence for this. So moving from problem solving to appreciative inquiry. We're used to problem solving. That's kind of, let's just admire the problem and spend a lot of time marinating in it. You move from identifying the problem to valuing the best of what is, what currently exists, what is the best of what we have in this system, because this is what we're stuck with, right? What is the best within what works right now, as opposed to all the things that are not working. What is working? There's got to be some things that are working. How do we unearth them? By asking the right questions. Analyzing the causes. Oh my gosh, these are all the reasons why this thing doesn't work. Okay, well, what might be? What could possibly be? How do we move from analyzing the possible solutions to a dialogue, a conversation about what should be? And you think about, in the regular problem-solving mode, you assume that the system is a problem to be solved. The education-to-employment system is a problem to be solved. In this approach, which we are going to practice in a few minutes, we are thinking about the education-to-employment system as a mystery to be understood. This thing is a mystery, and there's something in here that could work. How do we uncover it? It's a different mindset. It's a mystery to be discovered. Here it's talking about what is in the way of what we want. Oh, we don't have NEPA, so the schools don't. Oh, there's no resources. Oh, the teachers are not paid well. Oh, they are not motivated. Those are all the things that are in the way of what we want. This focuses on going in through the front door. What is it that we ultimately want? Can we design, co-design together what it is that we actually want? And let's get there. Any questions? We're about to practice this. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going into the future. We can spend all our time here talking about all the challenges, the issues, our SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Nah, let's just start to build what it is that we want to go to. Okay? So, we're going to seek the root cause of success rather than the root causes of the problem. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to form pairs. Everybody has a pair? Go to your neighbor, signal to them that you are a pair. Pair, two people. Does everybody have their pair? Two people. Some people think they have a pair, but their pair is looking at the other person. So who's your pair? Okay, therefore who's your pair? And then who's your pair? Okay, who's your, everybody literally like find a pair and start to sit next to them. And we're going to have an interview. So how many of you ever wanted to be a journalist? So we're going to pretend that we are journalists for today, and we're going to be interviewing the second person in our pair. And you're going to ask questions, but not comment. Nod your head to show you're listening, interesting, but do not comment. Just take notes. You're a journalist for a day. 20 minutes, you're going to be a journalist. One person speaks, the other person listens and takes notes. You are not taking note of exactly what they're saying. You're taking note of the theme. What is the theme? What is the cocoa behind it? What's the story? The themes in what they're saying. After you do that, you'll switch roles. The other person will speak. You will listen, or the other person will listen to you and ask you those questions, and you will speak. Make sense? So, instructions for interviewing. Be a generous listener. Luckily, you don't have to say anything in response. Because half of the time when we're not listening generously, it's because we're thinking about what we're going to say in response to what the person says. So we're not really listening, we're just preparing for the next thing. In this case, there's no next thing for you to say, so just listen. Just generally listen for the themes, what could be possible as a result of what they are saying. Do not dialogue, don't talk, just listen, nod your head, right? Take turns. If you need more information, you can ask follow-up questions. Okay, can you just explain what you mean by that? In real time, you're allowed to ask questions. We don't want you taking notes of things you don't actually understand what the person is saying. Just ask them follow-up question if you need to. Write down the key points you learned during your interview and pay full attention to your interviewee rather than think about what you are going to say. Okay. So these are the questions you will ask. And I will go through them as best I can, but please ask me clarifying questions if it doesn't make any sense. You will ask your interviewee. Can we just be present for a moment? And I'll send you the slides. This camera is the eyes. Describe a high point in your education or learning experience. A time when you felt you were truly learning. It doesn't have to be when you were in secondary school, but a time you were in a structured learning environment and you felt you were truly learning. The highest point. It could be when you were in primary 1 and you were learning how to read. I don't know what it is. Well, because we're trying to figure out what works in the education-to-employment system, I would like examples that come from when you were in the system. Not when I was in my home and my mother was teaching me, parents are doing so many great things. We want something that was in this education-to-employment spectrum. So think about a time, at the best time in your life when you felt, man, I love to learn. When your learning was truly unlocked. A time of self-discovery when you felt you were being prepared for the future. You were being prepared for life. A time you felt really passionate and alive in your learning. That's the one moment. And you're going to describe that moment. What made it memorable? What made it stand out? What was it about you that made it a high point? What was it about the other person that made it a high point? What made this learning system so effective? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were you doing? You're going to take us back to that time. And you're going to describe for us, because what we're trying to figure out, what were the elements of what made that a true learning situation for you? Preferably a time in this country. One that was in this country. On earth, times when it has worked. When we had that spark. Because as Dr. Fumi said, we need to figure out when has it worked in our own lives, in our own experiences, and what can we glean from that. So you tell us a story. Second question will be this. What is it that you value most about yourself as an individual? And about your work in this system? We all part of this, whether we're on the education side, employment side, or just kind of straddle the middle, like some of us. What is it that you value about yourself and about your work in this system? And what is it that you value the most about the system? Let us be fair. When people come out of this system and go to the abroad, people always say Nigerians have a discipline and a work ethic. So there's something that our schools are doing right. There are some things that they're doing right. So what is it that you value the most about yourself, your work in the system, and the system itself? What are those things that make Nigeria's education-to-employment system unique? What are its strengths? What are its assets? What are the distinctive capabilities that you would want to keep from the past and build into a 2.0 version that we want to start building today? There are some things that are working, if we're honest with ourselves. And we want to identify those things in these interviews that we want to carry from the past and take into the future. Does that second question make sense to everybody? Third one. This is fun. Imagine you go to sleep tonight and you wake up tomorrow and whoa, it's April 2020. What's that? 2020. It's a year from now. And the education-to-employment system, the 2.0 that we're talking about, has been realized. A miracle happened while you were asleep. And you woke up, it's a year later, April or March 27, 2020. And this
plan has been implemented and has been wildly successful. All the stakeholders are satisfied. The young people are satisfied. Parents are so satisfied. Wow, my kid is actually learning and being prepared for life and for work. Teachers are satisfied. They're thriving. Oh my gosh, I feel alive. I am teaching and I'm learning. This is amazing. Government is happy. They're just winning all the time. They're electing them because their kids are learning. The parents are happy. The voters are happy. Everybody's winning. And you have personally been a contributor to this success. The word is out. Nigeria's education system, that's the place to go.
All of a sudden, Ghanaians are back and to come back to school here. The British are trying to come. Remember,
How British people used to come
to school here. Back. Everybody wants a piece of the Nigerian education. To get in, they're fighting with people from Kenya who want to come to school.
And everybody knows us as being one of the most
Successful in preparing young people for the future. People are proud to be a part of this system.
people are motivated and engaged.
The secret question here: what did it take to get here?
We're going to use your imagination for this third question. You know what I'm thinking about the past. We're now using your imagination. So that's what we're going to find out. Somehow, it happened. And now we're asking you, what happened? The news is out. What happened? What made it so successful? What did it take to get here? What do you experience, see, hear, feel around you?
How do you know it happened?
When you wake up and it's a miracle, and you know, how do you know it happened? Like when your knee was hurting and all of a sudden it's not
I think if you know it's not hurting, you could.
happy, you're not in pain. How do we know? What will we see when we walk into schools, when we walk into gatherings like this? How will we know when we walk into companies and talk to HR people and they tell you, whoa, we don't know what happened though, but this thing is working. What will you hear? What will you see? What will you feel? What will be happening around you that you will know, wow, this miracle really did happen. I prayed about it last night and I don't know what something has happened and it's working. What was your role in creating this successful change? And what would it be that you would say to this statement? I am most proud of Nigeria's education-to-employment system now because what it does. So starting from the past, the first question, we're going to the present. What is it now that we value about the system, about us in the system and working in? What is hopeful and what carries into the future? And then we're ending the future. And what happened to get us there? Does it make sense?
Very 20 minutes ahead. Well, 40 minutes because 2020. Okay? And then we're going to come back in groups and report out. So we're going to do this interview session in pairs. 20 minutes asking those 3 questions, take notes on the themes. 20 minutes the other person, take notes on the themes. After that, we're going to come back and those 2 pairs will form something else. TBD, don't worry. Okay? So can we get started?
This is our average student in Nigeria, and these are the things we believe would help Education 2.0 in a year, according to our dream. And the first thing is family. Community, family and community support. The more support the child has, the better the child performs in school. Then we have peer support, which are his classmates. They either drive you to do better or just let you fail on the way. Then we have technology, which is the computer. The more we adapt technology in Nigeria, the better we can go and we can start competing on an international level. And the curriculum. The curriculum needs to adapt to what is going on now and better teaching methodologies so that the students can succeed. And of course, our policies, which leads us to ensuring that those that do make those policies are the right people. That's our participation, which still comes back to the community. Then, finance, which is finance for teachers, for schools, for principals, just to ensure that they're well monetized to do better. And finally, once he has all of this, or she has all of this, he or she can be a TEF fellow or an entrepreneur. Yes, so that's our dream.
So we have Team Synergy, and basically we were able to come up with this, having the two idea bulbs light up our world and bring about innovative practical ideas.
These also signify the place of collaboration and bringing together ideas from varied people with different experiences, background, exposure, education, and word of view. And for us, we believe that for the future that we desire, for being able to transit from education to employability, is first self-discovery. This is very critical for us because we believe that when an individual discovers he or herself, it's easier along the way for he or she to thrive in moving from school to the workplace. We also talked about technology because that's the future, and whether we like it or not, it's an integral part of where we're going. We also talked about mentoring. There's always someone out there that has done what you want to do, or that looks like the future you've always desired. We also looked at, of course, the place of hard work cannot never be overruled. There's a place of discipline and putting into whatever you want to achieve, quality time, and of course, discipline. We also talked about experiential and experimental learning. So for us, we believe that it's not much about writing of notes, it's not much about the structured forwards of the classroom, but hands-on practical experience that we can, because it's the same thing you're going to be doing on the job. And so you don't come to your boss telling him or her plenty theories. The guy goes, so what are you going to do, or what have you done, or what is the end result? So we believe that we can also use this tool as moving from education to employability. And of course, the place of resilience, the never give up, the never die hard attitude to ensure that whatever you want to get done is done, all right? And of course, we have the power of focus. For us, we believe that it's important to know where you're going and give it the best shot to get the kind of results you want. And for us, our name being Synergy is the fact that we understand that the sum total of every one of us is actually greater than, the total of every one of us is actually greater than the sum of our parts, okay? So I think that's it.
Anyone else on your team, chime in. Anything she missed out, please.
Anything that,
anything? Any questions for their
sorry?
team?
Oh, really?
Questions for their team. So
Question.
we talked a bit about where we're going. Best of what is, please.
Yes, best of what is
Right now.
resilience. So it's married into it. Of course, we also have, self-discovery.
Right now, best of what is.
Yeah, kind of, because, yes.
Discover themselves through the education system.
Whoa. Ooh, we are cool like that.
Yeah. What? I was going to say, well, what do you think would be the biggest challenge?
Well, for me, I believe it's the people. The people. Because, the people, leveraging on leadership and the people. It's always the major issue. For every other resource, you can always manipulate and get your desired results. You want to say something?
My question is,
okay.
Experimental experience.
Yes.
Is that what is happening now or what you see in the future?
Well, yes, what we see in the future, although a bit of it is happening now, but yes, a bit of it is happening now. That's the truth. Because I have an opportunity to head 2 schools in the last 10 years, and that has given me a platform to be able to see, we have a very wide landscape, so most of the time we only judge based on what we can see, until when you actually get on the field and know what is happening. And presently, we consult for a couple of schools too, and realize that yes, it may be expensive, but yeah. Experiential
learning, tying in with what Mrs. Fumilayo spoke about this morning on TVET and
yes, the vocational education, yes, definitely, because even it's those raw skills. I mean, you get to work, you are given a laptop, get the job done. It's not what is Microsoft Word or what is PowerPoint or what. There's no time for all that. It's to get the job done, the input and then the output. So that's it basically. All right, yes, please. Go ahead.
Actually, from your question, it ties into what Dr. Fumi talked about earlier, because during the one-on-one interviews, when experiential and hands-on came on, my experience, how I got better, started from primary school, and I was amongst the minority there. And why was it different? With teaching methods. So she talked about pedagogy. That's the way you teach the younger ones, right? So right now, currently what we have, you go into primary school and they're being taught like garbage in, garbage out, or whatever it is. Good, yeah, the Xerox part. I grew up not doing Xerox, and that has bettered me down. Like when I got to high school here, it was whatever is like there's something called the marking scheme, which I didn't know about. Unless they're keywords, you get half scores or 0. No, the teacher has told you ABC. There are different ways of getting ABC. Put it on paper and you still score 100%. So that's what's missing now. So that is the teaching approach and the pedagogy and pedagogy methods we have.
Next team.
This is our solution tree. We've heard a lot about problem trees. If you have a background in development, you know a lot about problem tree. But from the exercise that Ms. San took us through this morning, this is our solution tree. And I'm going to start from the STEM, because that's where the first question started from. We wanted to identify that one thing in our individual and collective experiences that worked in the current education system and how that can be improved and built on to maybe get to where we're going. So some of the things that guys in our team said worked, in the process of self-discovery, that aha moment, was the fact that they were in systems where the learning was project-based. So it was hands-on, they had to solve problems. It wasn't just that someone was preaching at them in the class. A structured learning environment, someone said that contributed a lot to knowing what to expect and looking forward to it. Innovative approach to learning, and then practical approach to learning. So this is kind of project-based and also using other methods to just make sure that so someone talked about case studies, that it was actually in a course where case studies were used, they had to go to field, solve real problems, learner-centered teaching, and then the use of technology. So, and then we backed up a bit to think about what are the things that can be in place to make this aha moments institutionalized, and it's not just one person's experience in third level, a 300 level at once. So how do we institutionalize all of these experiences that can improve the education to employment system? So we talked about, first of all, there has to be change in the way we make policies. So there has to be policy makers and actors at the highest level of decision making who know what they're doing, and they're committed to making policies that are implementable. So in terms of writing solution on paper, there's a lot of it flying around everywhere. But are there budgetary allocations? Are there timelines? Is data being collected to measure progress on these issues? And then we talked about teacher training. There has to be, the whole system of teacher training in Nigeria has to be changed. There has to be a system change there as well. There has to be advocacy on our part. There has to be public-private partnerships, hybrid solutions to this problem. It's not just a government thing. There has to be private sector. There has to be development sector contribution. There has to be research. We need academicians, the likes of the work that Dr. Doherty is doing, and then investment, a lot of investment in the education sector. And then this is, if we have this route, this is our route. So if we have this, producing this as a system, what then is the result?
All right, so what we would see in the Education to Employment 2.0 would be social and industry solutions learned in the classroom. So you're learning for the workplace. It's not that you're going to work to start learning how to work, but while you're in school, you're learning about industry solutions. And then that means that students are prepared for the future of work. So this picture we have is our vision that a Nigerian degree will transform you. So this is what you would see today in Education to Employment 1.0 is an international degree that will transform you. So you see advertisements from UK universities telling us Nigerians that if you study in the education system, your life will be transformed. But we are saying that if we have all of this working for us, our Nigerian degree can actually transform our graduates. And then there's a smooth transition from school to work. And we are globally competitive. So we can stand with the likes of the Chinese and the Indians and all of that. And so, yeah.
So, on a final note, you might want to ask that as this didn't work before, right? And I wanted to use two examples from countries within our economic scope, right? I'll use two examples, Tunisia and Vietnam. So Vietnam decided to invest more in teachers training, which is what we have here. And you notice that within a period of 10 years, they saw massive innovation happen within the tech industry, within the economic industry, and different aspect of their economy was boosted because of teachers training. And let me give another example of Tunisia. Tunisia decided to improve investment in education to 35% of the overall budget, right? Which is pretty much captures what we have here. And we noticed that over a period of 20 years, they had to measure how has this investment in education affected other industry, and they noticed that it's really, I can't say the numbers here because I'm not sure about it, but I would like you to look at what has been done in education, in the education sector of Tunisia and Vietnam to see if this actually works and if it actually fits into our own system. Thank you very much.
What's the best of what we have today? Right now,
yeah, so I think most of what was said in the group is similar to what has been said in other groups, is resilience. You know, our system kind of teaches you to go through any kind of thing. And that's what I think that when we go to senior clients, we kind of like are exceptional because you've gone through everything here. And then I think another thing that also stood out is especially in the older federal university systems, there's an internal discipline clock that you have. For instance, if you have below a certain level of CGPA, you drop out of the school. So you know that your seriousness can go below a certain level. And then, you know, that 2-1 first class system, there's an internal clock of competition, healthy competition. You want to be the best kind of. So it's there and it's useful. And, you know, I think that kind of prepares our young people to give their best to whatever is then out there after school.
And we have the resources as well, right? We have natural resources, we have the human resources that we are not making use of. And if we channel all of that into better practices, it will definitely work for us.
Lastly, I believe Nigerians are very aspirational. They like and every Nigerian wants to blow or wants to come. You know, they have that dream of that vision of what they want to come. So leveraging on that aspirational attitude of Nigerians, we can build a better future.
Any questions for them? Any other?
We discussed about the ability of the breadth of the skills, skills taught in the school, that for specific courses, they still have to teach some other things even in the school environment. And so a student has access to know little about some other things aside from the course he's going in for, which is also a strength that we highlighted. And I think that's it.
So our team is a great team because the people who make up our team are sort of the organizers, and so we are just okay. What are these? I'm coming. Yeah. So we're able to. Yeah. Great. So I don't know. This doesn't look like a strong arm, but that's what's supposed to be. It's like a chicken foot, but it's good. Right, so this is the best of what we have now, as Emmanuel has said, flexibility, and then the grit that we have in our youth. So this here, the laptop, the headphones, and the synergy that is being created here by different people. So this is representing multimedia self-directed learning, so you can be anywhere and then just study like the innovator here. Thank you. Trying to create that, and then the Facebook opportunity as well, so you can be anywhere and then direct your own learning according to what you are passionate about. And then collaboration, which I mentioned here, synergy, lifelong learning. And then the headphones is about, okay, wherever you are, you can learn, and also it can be fun. Right? So this is the world in this perfect, being perfect, right? This is the rainbow. It doesn't look like a rainbow, but yeah. Let's imagine. Oh, great. This is a rainbow, and this is the world, and this is a rocket. And so this is Nigeria. Oh my goodness. So this is Nigeria shooting, for the stars, Nigeria global talent. And where would we be if we are able to do all this, plus the grit that we have? Then we'll be able to create, a Nigerian global talent hub, showing the world how to create entrepreneurial talent hubs. So that's it. So we'll be like the nerve of production, the nerve of business in the world and technology as well. Because we have a very large youth population. Right, so yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Just to add that, the idea behind that reality, which is the strong arm and the sad face and the strong arm, is that you can have those paradoxes. You can have a situation where things are not working very well, but you still have a unique selling proposition. And we believe that, as my colleagues have said, that resilience, the adaptability, the fact that Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world where you can have private sector just get up one day and walk into a public school and say, we want to come and teach children in public schools. Many countries don't allow that, but we still have those, in that intermingling between the public, the private, this sort of context where we have public sector, we have private sector, we're collaborating, co-designing, co-creating. We think that's a fantastic strength. And in the perfect world, as Ruth has rightly said, we're asking ourselves, what do we have that is our strength in Nigeria? Besides all of those, we also have our numbers, isn't it? A lot of Nigerians have called for policies to reduce, the birth rate. We're the only ones who think the birth rate is a problem. a lot of the rest of the world believe that our birth rate is a significant strength, for Nigeria, if it is harnessed properly. And so in that sense, we know that the Nigerian spirit is entrepreneurial. And if we're able to create hubs of micro-enterprise, in groups of 10, in groups of 100, in groups of 1,000, 100,000, what we're literally doing is we're demonstrating to the world that this is how MSMEs work. And we can also export talent and import foreign exchange as well.
So we want to take it home. I hope that this session today has left you feeling positive about the raw materials we need to get to where we want to go. The fact that they are in this room. We all have a commitment to continue to make to get to this universe that we want to see. we realize, like I said earlier, we can't do this alone, and there's no point in doing it alone. And so that's why we are collaborating. We have been working with other partners under this umbrella called the ReadyForWork movement. And what that's about is saying, how do we rewire the system? What does the rewire do? You're not making anything new. You're taking what is there. You're just rewiring it. So we're saying we recognize that we do have teachers who are motivated, who show up even when their salaries aren't paid. We do have young people who are willing to learn and parents who borrow even when they don't know where their next paycheck is coming from to make sure that their kids stay in school. We have school leaders who run these schools despite not knowing whether they're going to make a profit year in, year out. We do have government stakeholders and regulators who actually want to make a difference, whether or not it's a popularity contest or not. We do have folks like us, primarily in the social sector, who are passionate about creating innovations to then hand over to government to scale up. And so how do we take the best of what is in all of us and all our models and start to work together in a concerted effort to rewire the system so that it works? And for us, we're asking people to commit to some very simple principles. If you're an educator in the room, how can you work more closely with the industry to find out what it is that you should be teaching? How can you bring, as Dr. Fumi said, bring them into your classroom or take your kids into those settings? And it's primarily, it needs to start happening earlier. We keep talking about, in the universities, there's not many Nigerians that are going to go to university right now. That's the reality. I know EduPlan is trying to change that. But the fact of the matter is these things need to be happening in our secondary schools, in our primary schools, helping children connect the dots as to why this class on this random plant matters to my future. And so how do we connect our curriculum into what industry needs? How do we start teaching 21st century skills? There's some skills that it doesn't matter what the robots do tomorrow. We are going to need to have empathy. You're going to need to have curiosity. You're going to need to have creativity. You're going to need to have multidisciplinary thinking. You're going to need to have initiative. If you have those things, you are going to be set for life. It doesn't matter what automation and the future of work brings. You will know how to learn and adapt. And we need to start committing as educators to teaching that. And how do we start to, again, give practical experience to our young people while they're learning? You can't wait until somebody's 22 and graduating for them to get their first work experience. We need to start infusing that earlier on by partnering with industry. If you're an employer and you're on the HR side of things, how do you change the conversation and stop signaling the wrong things? By telling people they need a 2-1, you're not telling them what should be within that 2-1 experience. What are the skills that they need to have? And if our job descriptions keep talking about years of work experience and whether you have a 2-1 or a degree or not, you are missing the point. The key things that we want are people who can solve problems, think critically, think creatively, work with others, manage their emotions, manage themselves. And if we don't start to communicate that, we're not going to signal to the world, to the school, to the educators, the things that they need to be teaching. And so we're asking employers to commit to prioritizing competencies over credentials, over work experience. We're asking employers to commit to start working with educators. Adopt your local secondary school. Don't just give them building and all of that. No, go in there and teach. Share your experiences. Help connect the dots for young people. We're asking them to review their curriculum to make sure that it's more up to date. If you're in the government, we're asking you to start bringing those two together. How can we all work together, the educators, the employers, the regulators? How do we refine our curriculum? And so the ReadyForWork movement is not about any one organization. It's about anyone who is committed to ensuring that the education-to-employment system is rewired to help get our young people ready for work. So we invite you to join us in any way possible and just continue doing the work that you do. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you very much, Misa. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had you for the entire morning, and we're very reluctant to let you go, but we have to. Okay, so just before we leave, just a few things I want us to run through. Now, if you check your seats, earlier I shared this. This is a nice evaluation form. I just need you to fill it out, let us know our strengths and our weaknesses, what we need to work on, and how we need to upgrade. Next is this, right? This is for educators. If you're an educator in the room, you can check your carrier bag. You should have that. Just help us fill it out. Okay, so as has been said, we are all educators. So please fill it out. We'd like to just get a little bit of information from you. We're trying to learn. Yes. And the very last thing is the nice flyer. This section. Please fill it out and then just, disengage it from the rest of it. So when you're done, please, you can hand them all over to me and I will see that they are used as needful. And if you need to drop your cards, please let's talk to Ruth. She will we'll pass the bag. And at the very end, when we're all done, we shall take a group picture just to commemorate us being here today. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Please fill our surveys. And lastly, so I recognize that there's a lot of different institutions here. I'm the coordinator of NICE for TEP Center. And if you feel inclined, just the way we had WAVE today featuring to host this session, we do this quarterly. So if you feel inclined to want to host the session as well, please let us know. We will be glad to interact with you and to host you as well. Okay, so thank you very much, people.